My sewing projects that I have to do have been piling up. I have a big stack of different projects. Some are tiny little tweaks that can be done in just a few minutes. And then I also have pieces that I want to make from scratch that are going to take several hours. I have not been particularly productive filming those for short form content, so you know what that means. It is time for another productive sewing vlog. So I have a long list of things that I want to get through today, and in between I want to have a little bit of a side quest and make some cinnamon rolls because I've been wanting to make some for several days now and never had the time to do so. But since I'm going to be home all day today, I have time to let the yeast dough rise in between all of the sewing. So there's gonna be a little bit of baking sprinkled into this vlog. But let's first talk about all the projects that I want to get to. This is a stack of projects that I want to get through. I'm probably not going to finish all of them, but I think I'm going to definitely be able to make quite a big dent into this today. Number one is a pair of pants that I sewed about 6 years ago. As you probably know by now, I've gained quite a lot of bit of weight in between. And I have been holding on to these because I knew I had some fabric left over and I finally found it. So I'm going to, as always, extend them in the side seams, see if they fit after. They were just always such an easy pair of pants to wear in the summer because they're very, very thin, lightweight, flowy, super comfortable. They don't even have a waistband. This should take less than half an hour, hopefully. Then next are two little mending things. These are two hand towels where the ribbon is one, it has completely come off on one side, and the other one is starting to kind of fall apart. So these just need to be fixed. And that shouldn't be an issue. Again, 10 minutes maybe. This right here is a skirt that I made, I don't know, 4 years ago. I had a very, very limited amount of fabric and I decided to turn it into a skirt, but it's sheer. I never wear it as a skirt. I was thinking I would like to turn this into a halter top for New Year's. It is now the 7th of January, New Year's has passed, but I still would like to turn it into that top. I think that's kind of what I had envisioned. So I was thinking something haltery with a very drapey neck, because as soon as this drapes, it has like this really pretty sparkle to it. On the topic of black tops, I got this blouse from a friend as a hand-me-down a few years ago. She never wore it. I have not worn it a single time. I knew when I got it I was probably not going to wear it much because of the way it fits. I just don't wear it. I don't know if you guys remember my pink dress that I let go in my closet clear out, but it was essentially fully covered, puffy sleeves, midi length, really flowy and boxy. And that is what I'm envisioning for this shirt. I'm thinking this would actually be a nice wintry dress, long sleeves, and then just a very nice tiered, layered skirt. And for that, I have been collecting a couple of different black fabrics and cut-offs. So this right here is a dress that I never wear. Pant legs. I was also thinking to make it a bit more of a sporty vibe. I also have another pair of sweatpants that I got rid of because it has a couple of holes. And so I'm thinking midi length dress, tiered skirt with a couple of ruffles, some little stripes in there. We'll see how that's gonna go. It's probably gonna be quite a improv project, not as easy to follow along to. This right here is a hoodie from my sister. It's a hand-me-down, but it has writing on it in the front and the back that is completely peeling. Like, it's really, really bad. So I cannot wear this or wash it, but the hoodie in itself is still fine, and I actually need some work clothes that can get dirty and beat up. So what I was thinking is to find some sort of a fabric to cover up essentially just the wording, because there's no way to scratch it off or anything. So I'm gonna sew something over it. Don't know what that fabric is gonna be yet, but that would then leave me with a very wearable hoodie. Shouldn't take too long. And then right here I have a little red polo shirt that I would like to sew to be quite a fitted shirt. I'm also thinking to maybe change the button placket for a zipper. And then the very last thing that I have on this pile is this insane looking fabric, which is from IKEA from years ago, in case some of you recognize it. It's from 2010, so 16 years by now. It has a ton of crazy stuff on it, but it is a thick canvas weave cotton, and I am planning to make some high-waisted trousers with probably some pleats on the front waistband. I don't know if it's going to turn out. I don't know the whole idea. This is going to be the project that I'm definitely not going to finish, but I would like to get started on it. That is it. Let's see how many of these we can get through today. Quick time check. It is 10:20 something. Let's say it's 10:30. I'm going to start with the towels. Towel number 1, this is the current situation. It has the little care label in it at the top here, and this seam opened up and the care label came out, so it essentially just means I have to put this back in, stitch it closed. I'm going to see if I have a matching thread. And we're all done. This took less than 3 minutes. For towel number 2, this is the current situation. So I actually put this ribbon onto the towel in the first place a couple of months ago, and I didn't have the proper ribbon to use, and this one is woven quite loosely, and you really shouldn't have a ton of tension on it. This isn't the heaviest towel since it's just a hand towel, so I think if I just fix this down a little bit better, it will have a couple more months of life in it, and one day I will properly replace it. But for now, I'm just going to find a way to probably fold this over a couple times and then stitch it down again, and that's going to be it for today. And here it is all fixed. It does not look perfect. I still have some of the loops of whatever is fraying, but this will do, and I'm happy enough with it. The next project is going to be these pants. So let's talk about the current state of the pants first. This is the pants currently. I already have the side seams completely open. So really all I need to do is I need to cut 2 long strips, serge all the edges, sew those strips in. Now there's a couple of decisions that have to be made. Number 1, do I measure first, cut, and then sew? Or should I measure, cut a little bit too big, sew, and definitely have leeway? I think that's probably going to be the better option. And then question number 2, do I sew the edges first and serge them together? Or should I serge them first, sew them after, which is going to make the seam a little less sturdy, but it's going to make it easier to potentially alter in the future. And I think what I'm going to do is an in between. So I think I will first measure the length that the strip needs, and then roughly the width I need for both the strips. I'm going to cut them a little bit too wide, and then I will attach them to, let me check. So the zipper is still attached to the front leg, and it's seam ripped from the back leg. Which means that I think I will sew my strip to the... Yes, it makes more sense. I will sew my strip to the back legs and sew and serge. And then on the front leg, I will serge the edges because here I have to have it separate anyways for the zipper. So on the front leg, I will serge the edges first. Then I will also serge the edge of that little insert. I will sew them together. First things first, I'm going to now measure the seam. I'm going to measure the waist, figure out how much I'm missing in the waist, and then I will cut my strips. I did already pre-wash the fabric. I am not going to iron it because I'm lazy, and I never ironed these pants either, so both are unironed, and I feel like that is close enough. I measured everything, and the side seam is in total 109 centimeters long, which I have bias binding both on the waist and at the hem. So I don't need a ton of seam allowance there. I only need a centimeter each, which is altogether 111 centimeters in length for the strip. And then for the width, the original waist is 72 centimeters, which makes a lot of sense because that is what my waist was for years and years and years. And now we are at 84, which means that I need to add 12 centimeters all around, so 6 on each of the side seams. So I need the inserts to be 6 centimeters, 2 centimeters seam allowance each means at least 8 centimeters. That could not have gone any better. So essentially the piece that I had from last time around was just this. So this is the width of the fabric, and I just had this tiny little bit, and then I had a very long strip on the edge because my pant legs apparently were a little narrower than the width of the fabric to begin with. That strip was the perfect length and also the perfect width, like this is all that was left over. So I got a strip from the edge of the fabric, which also means that I don't have to serge that edge because I have a nice selvage, which is not going to fray. So now I have 2 strips that are very wrinkly. Also, quick time check, it is 10 minutes to 11. What I'm doing now is I have the end of the pant leg. So this right here is the hem, and I have one of the strips. This is the back pant leg, like I said. This is my strip, and I have the raw edge on this side, and the selvaged edge I will use later. So I'm going to now sew together the raw edge of my insert and my back leg piece. I have the back leg on top so I can see the old seam, so I can just stitch right in there. Now I also do not have this pinned, which is why I'm just going ahead and kind of pulling at the very end of the pant leg. I'm matching the 2 pieces up, and I'm just pulling, making sure they match up, and then holding them, trying to get this in frame, holding them right here, so a little ways from the sewing machine, just so I know that I'm not stretching it in any area, but it is evenly spread out. And I keep doing that while I'm sewing, kind of matching them up at the end, and then at the halfway point, holding on to that halfway point, just to save myself some time and not have to pin everything. I just took forever to rethread my serger in white, and now I'm going to go ahead and serge the seam that I just sewed. I just went ahead and also serged the side seam on my front leg piece, and now I'm going to do all of the same steps on the other side as well. Also, a quick side note, in case any of you have a good suggestion for a tripod that works well both for your phone and a heavier camera, and potentially is good for on the table use and also bigger for like from the top overhead shots on the floor, feel free to drop them down below because mine is falling apart. All right, so I just went ahead and pinned them on the most important spot, so just the waist and the hip. These are very wide leg, so they're not going to be too tight or wrong fit-wise anywhere else. There's a couple of issues that I would like to address. So the fact of the matter is that my body has changed quite a bit. Now I have darts right here in the front, and I think letting those out and having less of a strip would have been better because I have not gained the same amount centimeter wise around my waist that I did around my hip. So right now I'm having an issue where I have too much fabric here. This is too much. I could take it in a bit around the hip, but then I feel like they would lose a bit of their flowiness. I think in general, the rise might not be high enough. I think it used to be higher, but when I made these pants, I did not have pre-washed the fabric, so it shrank a bit. So that was always an issue to begin with, but they did fit really, really nicely. I'm thinking a little bit of tension here, which would make them sit nicer and flatter. So I'm just gonna put them on, actually, I think inside out and pin it so I have it pinned exactly where I want to sew and make my life a little bit easier. Whenever stuff gets a little too complicated, I sometimes like to step away from filming for a second just to focus on what I'm actually doing and prevent making mistakes. That worked out beautifully today, actually. Let me catch you up very quickly what I just did. I pinned the side seams, I sewed those down. I put in the zipper. I'm actually really not happy with this zipper. It's a little puckery. I put them on and they still were a little off in the front. So what I ended up doing is I did end up changing the center front seam a little bit. I changed the front curve. So this curve was looking a little bit more kind of straighter. And then I went ahead and just, from a seam that kind of went like this, I went in and down a little bit more. So now we have just a little something left to do, which is the top and the bottom edges. So as I said, they are done with bias tape, and the way I did it is I sewed it on this edge by machine, and then I actually hand sewed it here. So I have blind hems everywhere. When I unpicked it, I made sure to unpick this hand seam just a little bit and knot it off so it wouldn't come undone all the way. So now what I need to do is I just need to add a small bit of bias tape to the end, sew it to the edge, hand stitch it down. I'm going to do the part of extending the bias tape and sewing the bias tape onto the pants. The hand sewing, I'm not going to do that right now because I feel like that would be wasting time. On that note, time check, it is now 10 minutes to 12, so I think this took about an hour if I remember correctly. I inserted the bias tape. Now all that's left to do is the hand sewing, and I already pinned everything in place to make my life easier. I went for this lilac bias tape because I have a bunch of it. That is the pants done for now. I'm now gonna take a quick break to start on my cinnamon roll baking. I'm gonna make the dough, and then I will continue sewing. I just cleaned half the kitchen, put away a bunch of dishes and stuff. Now I can start making the dough. It is now already 12:20. I'm going to start on the dough and then let it rest for the first time. Challenge right now is finishing this dough before my roommate wakes up so he can have the kitchen without me filming in here. I'm a good baker, but I do not make cinnamon rolls often, so I do not know these by heart. I have a random recipe, and I'm now just gonna get out all the ingredients and hope that it works. Ingredient number one is actually milk, so I first need to mix myself some oat milk. I have been using this oat milk concentrate, which essentially is this small thing of oat milk. You mix it with water, and then it makes 1.5 liters of oat milk, which just means a lot less carrying. I also actually really like the milk. I feel like it's it comes out creamier than other ones. You can make it even creamier if you'd like. I've also tried oat milk powder to mix with water. I never liked that because I always felt like I had lumps of the powder in there still. I've been loving it, but for my Germans out there, I no longer shop at DM. I've switched to Rossmann. So in case you have any product recommendations that are not from DM, maybe Anatura has something similar, I don't know. Dens. If you have any recommendations for an oat milk concentrate that works similarly to this but is not from DM, please let me know because it has worked really, really well for me and I would like a replacement. It says 270 ml. I will microwave this for a little bit to get it warm. 50 grams of sugar, flour, 500 grams. I finished making the dough. It is now next to the heater rising. I don't think it's warm enough, so I just turned the heater up a little bit so I'll be warm and cozy in this room. And then I also made lunch, which means that this little lunch break took a little longer than I thought. It is now 2:15 and I want to get a couple of easy wins. I want to get some stuff cranked out because I noticed I really just finished 2 or 3 projects depending on if you want to count those towels separately. So my next one is going to be this one. This is essentially just a polo shirt that I want to make tighter, so I'm going to try that on and see what it looks like currently. I just tried the shirt on. I actually have not worn this in probably years. I got this years and years ago, and it was big back then. Then it was a little too tight and kind of weirdly fitting for a while, and so I never reached for it. But now it's actually fitted exactly the way I would like. The only thing I would maybe change is take it in just the tiniest bit on the side seams, but I honestly think that's not worth the effort, and the seams probably look nicer now than if I were to do it with white thread. So I'm not doing anything to this shirt. I am going to put it right back where it came from in my closet and actually start wearing it this summer. The next project that we're doing is this skirt. This is a very, very simple skirt, It has two side seams, a little bit of ruching on one of the sides. It has an elastic sewn into the very top for the waistband, and then it flares out a little bit at the bottom. It's a tiny bit longer at the back than in the front. And the idea I had for it, very, very simple. I just tied this little elastic to it just to kind of try it on. But essentially I want to do something where I connect the waistband, the back of my neck, as kind of like a halter situation, and then I want to make it tight around, somewhere around the waist. So I played around with it a little bit already, and I don't like if it's like fully tight and this is just flat. So the idea I like is to have it, take it a little bit lower and then connect it in the back, or almost connect in the back, and that way there's a little bit more free loose fabric here, which then starts to fold over on itself a little bit, and you can see the nice shimmering threads that are in the fabric. Really all I need in the back, I don't want it to fully connect, it's the slightest bit too tight, but I want just a small little gap, kind of like so. And then at the top, it also can't fully connect. I want a small little gap. I just need to sew 3 small pieces of black elastic to this thing, and hopefully it fits and does what I want it to. So I'm gonna go ahead, change the thread on my sewing machine, stitch some pieces of elastic on one side, and then I'll try it on one more time, pin them in place exactly where I want them to be on the other side, and I'll hopefully be done. I'm just taking the elastic off from the waistband again. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave the pieces pretty long for now, and then I can always trim back later. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this into 2 equally long pieces. I want to do 2 pieces around the neck so that it's kind of a bit higher around the neck and just not like right at the bottom, but you have 2 parts. I'm going to keep the skirt assembled, so all these side seams will stay closed and I will have 2 layers of fabric that way. I feel like with how sheer this fabric is in 1 layer, 2 layers just make the most sense to me. I'm just double checking where the in and outside are based on where the back of the skirt was, because the back of the skirt is longer, so I want that to be the outside now. And now let me just quickly show you what I'm sewing. This right here is the top edge, side edge. I'm just gonna go ahead and stitch this elastic right here for a second. So just pretty short stitch length, and then I'm going to fold it over and stitch again. I'm just going over it a couple of times to make sure that it is secure, because we don't want this ripping open or anything. And this way it's folded over, but the end of the elastic is encased, so there's no fraying there or anything. And then I will just leave this loose right now for the try-on later. And then I will take the second piece of elastic. I will go down just a couple of centimeters, about like right here, I think. So from up here to down here, I feel like that's a good collar height. And I'll just repeat exactly those 2 steps again. I'm trying to get both my face and this shirt in shot in a very limited amount of space. But this right here is what it's looking like pinned right now. So I pinned it on the neck, and that way I knew where the neck would sit and how it would sit, and I'm actually really happy with this. And then I went ahead and pinned it in the back with just 1 piece of elastic. I am going to not be crazy, and I will actually sew 2 pieces of elastic there just in case they ever do pull out on the seam or anything. This is an elastic that I know does fray once in a while, so I'm just gonna play it safe. But I think this is the fit we're going for. I'm very excited to wear this in summer. I'm a little annoyed that it's synthetic, but I have the fabric, so I might as well make something with it. Also, quick side note, I just made sure that I can actually put this on and take it off over my head if I sew those elastics on, because it's not super stretchy. So I just have to make sure that I don't need any buttons, but it does work, so we're good. On camera, nothing changed, but I am no longer being poked by pins. I sewed on all of the elastics. I have 2 in the back and then 2 also at the neck. This came together much easier than I was expecting. I've had this planned for probably about 2 months and never got to making it. I was thinking I probably wouldn't have enough fabric to go around the waist double, so I was scared that I was going to have to make a cut somewhere in the back and have only the top section be double layered and the bottom one layer. I was already worried and wondering about how I was going to finish off the edges and everything, but this, so easy. Perfect. Amazing. I'm very excited to wear this. I never once actually wore the skirt out. I made it. I tried it on once or twice with different outfits. I never wore it. This will actually be worn. Time check. It is now 3 p.m. and I'm going to take a quick break from the sewing machine, and I will actually get that hand sewing done now just because I want a little bit of calm time. So I'm going to do that and finish those pants from the beginning, and then I will continue after. Potentially I will actually continue with cinnamon rolls after, because this dough has become quite big. It is getting dark, so I better get a move on. This is my current outfit, but what I wanted to show you was my pants. Give me a second to put you lower. I have missed wearing these so much. I think the last summer I wore this was probably 3 years ago. I used to wear these pants a bunch, and since then they really haven't fit. I'm glad I held on to them. Very happy that I finally found the fabric and got around to upsizing them. They are as comfortable and amazing as always. The thing with these is they never had a waistband, so they've just always been like very soft and comfy in this area, which I've always loved and appreciated. But yes, I have them back. The length is still perfectly fine, obviously. This section fits nicely. We're done with the pants. It is 3:30 right now. It is starting to get dark. The cinnamon roll dough has doubled in size from the beginning, and I don't think it's been getting any bigger the last 20 minutes or so. So I think that is ready to be rolled out and turned into rolls to then rest and rise some more. So now I'm trying to figure out what I should do next. Whether I do shaping the cinnamon rolls or one of the sewing projects. Just a quick little reminder on what is still left. We still have the hoodie. I don't know yet what I'm going to put over the sections. I'm going to have to see if I have anything laying around that would make sense. The pants I will not get to today, and if I do get to them today, I would probably do that off camera and once it's gotten dark and I can take my time to properly assess the fabric, the pattern, and everything. One last other thing was the dress, but the dress I think will also be just a lot of like playing around and problem solving, so maybe doing that off camera might also be a better idea. So more or less, really the only thing left to do is the hoodie. So I think I'm going to do the hoodie first, and then I will do the cinnamon rolls just so I get the best lighting I possibly can for the hoodie. I'm going to use this fabric just because it is a bright color and I have a very small amount of it. This fabric used to be a curtain of a roommate of mine. She gave it to me to upcycle. I turned it with the exact same pattern actually as these pants. I turned it into a pair of pants with a matching jacket. Then 1 year ago or so I extended it on the side seams, made it bigger. Back then I went about, I would say that's 3.5 centimeters instead of the 6 that I did today, which means at some point the pants didn't fit me anymore either. I never actually wore them anymore. There's also other issues with it. It's a satin weave that was never meant to take a lot of tension, but some of the seams that I had it, like, I don't know if you can see that, but if you see how these holes just pull open because it's a satin weave, it was never meant to be a pair of pants. I learned that the hard way, but it's fine. I turned it into a skirt for it was a costume party, and my outfit was very Jackie Kennedy-esque, and that was a skirt for that because the jacket matched that very well. The jacket I have since donated, and the skirt I ripped apart to take the zipper out really just for parts, and this was going to end up in the trash because this fabric has been through it. It's not in good condition, but it is in good enough condition to cut small pieces out of it and to cover the words on the hoodie. And that is what I'm going to be doing. Now, right now I'm doing something that you usually don't do in sewing, which is I am pinning a non-stretch fabric onto a stretch fabric. This isn't ideal because if you stretch that fabric, your top fabric doesn't stretch and also your seam doesn't stretch. That seam probably wants to tear open, but this is a hoodie that doesn't fit super tight. So I know, especially with the placement of this piece of fabric, that I'm not going to be stretching the fabric or the seam too much, so it should be fine. I apologize for every single clip where all I'm looking at is the viewfinder, but this is the current state of the hoodie. So I sewed a piece onto the front and a piece onto the back, and on the back there is a massive piece still peeking out of the original writing, and on the front there is a tiny piece on this side right here. I'm going to take a break from this project. I'm going to put it aside. I will finish it in probably a month or so. Reason being, I have another sewing project planned, which is made up of a couple of very bright, fun fabrics, and I would like to use some of the scrap pieces from that project to put other shapes over the remaining writing. Doing it also in yellow I thought would just be a little bit boring, so I want to do it in a different color, and I don't want to use those fabrics yet because I don't know how much is actually going to be left over. Probably quite a small amount. So to make sure that I don't use any of the fabric that I actually need for the sewing project itself, I'm going to put this to the side now, and then I will use whatever is actually left after the fact and put it on there. But that means this hoodie is done for now, and I am not going to do the dress or the pants today. So let's do a quick review of all the things we did today because we did actually get a lot done. Number one, these pants. I love them. I'm very excited to wear them again. They are so thin, which means they are most certainly not made for this snowy cold weather right now, but they are the perfect pair of pants for like super, super warm sunny days, especially in settings where I have to wear long pants and be dressed professionally, for example. What else did we get done? We fixed the two hangers on the towels. One of them is going to go into the wash and the other one is actually still clean. We turned this skirt that I absolutely never wear into a beautiful fun halter top that I'm very excited to wear. Then we did the hoodie project. So we did pants, top, 2 towels, and the hoodie. That's 3 pieces of clothing that I can now wear, and 2 towels that I can hang up again. And honestly, I am happy with that. That is all in a day's work, and it is 4 p.m. If it were a summer day, I would probably keep going for another 5 hours and get more stuff cranked out, but since the lighting is just turning absolutely horrendous, that is where I'm going to stop for today, and now let's go ahead and make some cinnamon rolls to finish off this video. day of productivity, I'm going to call it a night and I will have some cinnamon rolls.